Click. Okay. So, as I'm wont to do on these meetings, and nobody has said to me, please stop it. Come on, where are you? There you are. So there is our agenda for the evening.
Okay, why can't I hear?
Welcome, Laura. I don't know why you can't hear, but we heard you. Okay, agenda. Welcome to committee and guests. So far I see Rosemary and Laura. I don't know if anybody else is joining us or plans to join us. I know someone who
Come
planned
back
to
in
join us
here.
isn't here yet. Okay, approval of February minutes. I note before we start that there was a correction pointed out by David. And that is in this sentence right here, where I had, what did I have? Tap, I don't know what I had, but it's being, is the correct word. So the minutes are up for approval as amended. Unless any-
Actually, Marty, it probably should be your audio.
Bob? I can't hear.
Uh, Marty, while she figures out her audio, it probably should be audio recording, not taping. I don't think anybody's used tapes in 15 years.
Right, that's right.
Okay. Did you admit her, Dan?
Yep,
Okay. Lori, you're back? You hear us now?
Bob?
Oh, God.
Bob?
I'm gonna mute her.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
I understand her problem. Anyway, okay.
Nor do I.
Approval. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Bob?
I thought I muted her.
So she unmuted herself.
Okay.
Okay, let's all hear for Bob. So the minutes have been approved unanimously. I didn't take a vote. No
Bob,
objection.
I'm in the meeting.
All right, somebody send her a text telling her to stop talking until she can hear us,
I muted her again.
but she's unmuting herself.
Gotcha.
He thinks that's the cure.
I mean,
Okay, motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody against? There being none, the minutes are accepted as amended. Item number 2, Chair's report. Come on. There was an issue raised at the last meeting, or before it, where am I? Discussion of policy, oh yeah, an issue raised at the last meeting concerning somebody's minutes that the person requesting discussion felt went over the line in terms of the authority that the committee had. My feelings have shifted from here and there. And so I think the appropriate method, which I have done, is speak to the person, and I'll make a comment at tomorrow night's meeting concerning people being aware of people aware of the sensitivity as to what they should or should not be doing. My interest here is that when a committee operates, it certainly should be in concert with the chair of the board. If there is an issue which has time constraints or there are emergency circumstances, I don't know what those are, And in the good judgment of the chair of the committee, there is a process. The process is to bring that item to the board. But if any of these things come up, I don't think we ought to tie people's hands. Again, if there's an emergency, they should be able to act with the knowledge of the board chair. So I don't plan to discuss this any further, personally.
Though I would do it every June or September.
Can do that. Okay, so, but I don't plan to do anything further tonight with any action I want the committee to take.
Very good.
The issue, and I thought Chuck was checking in.
I'm here.
Yeah, welcome, Chuck. The thing was raised and has been raised, and I think my position is still a valid one. This is something that needs to go to the Conflict of Interest Board, and that we ought not be involved at all because our judgment is irrelevant. It's what COIB says, and if that is what is being pursued, let it be pursued, but not for us to take a position. If anyone came to me and said, I think I have a conflict of interest, what do you think I should do? My answer has to be contact COIB. No judgment from me. So I want to move past that. And finally, the April meeting, combination of a lot of things. Primarily, I did it because I plan to go to Florida again. And if I could help it, but apparently I won't be able to, not have a meeting at all. But in conversation with Laura, April is as screwed up a calendar as September, thanks to the holidays. As a result, Laura has been scratching, trying to find empty space to hold some meetings. And I seated April for those two reasons. As it works out, Laura last told me, unless she's changed, Laura told me that that will be the date. Our meeting date will be the date of the executive committee meeting. And so just know we're not having an April meeting. Item raised by a committee member, Dan Padanak. And Dan, I will leave it to you to talk about it. But I will just preface by saying I spoke with Dan. I now know what his intent is. He brought to my attention a document put together by Community Board 3 in Manhattan. I perused it. It's 72 pages. I didn't absorb it. Dan obviously has. I believe it's well written. It's well intended. There's too much for us to consider whether we want to implement it as written, modify it, ignore it. We need time to ingest what's in that document. And I recommend at the point in time when we're ready to discuss it, we should have someone from office staff present and invited so that they can give us some sense. The document is entirely written from the perspective of what is expected the board office to do and know and be able to follow up on. I think their input is important. And so Dee, take time to review and comment at our May meeting. We'll be more informed. But having said all of that and too much, I turn to Dan. You're muted.
No, Marty, I think it's well said and well presented. I mean, we can get the document out. What I've been trying to do is just kind of cut down on my own and abridge it as much as possible to kind of fit to the stuff. But I mean, what they did with the document, like I thought was extremely well. They spent a lot of time going through a lot of different rules, laws, procedures, and just kind of the interrelation between office, board members. And I thought they did a really good job on it. So yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. And certainly, you know, to get office input on it, I think is a good idea as well.
Chuck?
Yeah, I think you have two problems with this. One, there's a contract between the city of New York and DC 37 concerning the office workers and the city's reaction to it. I think you're going to have to talk to them about it. And you're going to have to talk to the various other labor unions involved in the Municipal Labor Committee, because they all keep playing around with the role of the office worker. So I think you're going to have to do that. Otherwise, you'll have a claim of and I don't know how Community Board 3 avoided it. You're going to have a claim of unfair labor practice.
Perhaps you should take a look at the document, and then we'll certainly take, those considerations in mind.
I think as we get to a position where we have a position, at that point, it may be good to touch base with the union. But at this point, I think it's worth looking at and ingesting and decide what we want to keep or not take anything at all. From what my conversation with Dan, he's most impressed, and I direct your attention to the last 2 pages, which provide a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, a flow chart as to if something happens, then what happens, if yes, if no, and that's well written too. And there are 2 charts, one if there's a problem concerning a board member, one if there's a problem concerning an office employee. It's worth looking at, and that's all I recommend based on what Dan has presented. I see 2 hands. I think Laura was next.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in seeing this, of course. I also want to mention that the staff is supervised by the district manager, according to the city charter. And right now, we don't have a district manager. So this, we have to be cognizant of that and include everybody. So.
Yeah, I wish, Dan, we've tabled this a number of times, but at the time we had a district manager, that would have been a good time to have started on this. But, and I crossed my fingers and shouldn't do that. But hopefully by the time we're ready to come back and say something, we will, the Bob's committee will come back and we'll have a district manager. I so hope. Rosemary?
Hi, I'm sorry, you calling on me,
If your
Marty?
name is Rosemary, yes.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm sorry. I thought I heard it, but wasn't exactly sure. Okay, so I have no idea what this document is. I just heard a description that I think, a document that a community board created to give guidance to the office and the staff and procedures. That's kind of all I heard. Okay, so once again, I haven't seen it. I don't know it. It would be good, I think, for people to see it. I just want to add this, that at the tail end of my being board chair, Lisa Dowd and I, and the officers, including Laura, who was vice chair at that point, we were working toward coming up with a document that could be used for the full, for the board, but especially the workers. I'm sorry, is there? Okay, for the office and officers and board members, how different things should be implemented. I mean, one should talk to Lisa Deb about this also. Laura, you will remember this. It was, she started to put it together, and we came up with we thought the best way to start was a table of contents. And Lisa came up with a table of contents. We gave it to the executive committee. We gave it to the board. Here is what we're thinking about, what a guideline book could be for the board and the board office, et cetera, going forward, and ask for comments and stuff. As you know, as luck would have it or not, time ran out. There does exist someplace the table of contents, and Lisa did put together various sections of what the brochure, what the binder would be. They exist someplace, but it was left unfinished because time ran out. So I pose that to you, Marty, in this committee, that work had already started on doing something. Again, I haven't seen this, but it sounds like what we were attempting to do on Board 8, what we started to do. So there's a table of contents and certain sections were already developed. So that to the extent that anybody thinks this is a good idea, take what Community Board 3 did, take what was already done in Community Board 8, and maybe that would be helpful. I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit, but please understand, work was done along these lines already, but could never be completed, okay? Or we're not completed. Thank you, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. And it would be foolhardy on our part to engage in District 3s without looking at what has been done for our board, merge them, change them, whatever. But at this point, we are not informed. And in the 2 months between now and the next meeting, hopefully we'll get ourselves informed. So the
Mhm.
conversation will be a valuable one.
Thank you, Marty. I think that's and we barely dipped our toe in the ocean. Okay, I will tell you, if Community Board 3 has a full blown everything, they're way ahead of where we were. But we did start. We attempted for and things that were important for Community Board 8. So that's not a bad thing to turn one's back on. I'm sorry, I have to stop talking. Thank you, Marty.
I think you made your point and we agreed, so there's no reason to argue with it. Sylvia?
I feel like I missed a meeting. This document, whatever it is, that's well written. We haven't been, we as a committee have not seen it. So I'm
Correct.
not quite sure what's in it.
Correct.
And
Correct.
what?
You have not seen it. because
Okay,
Dan
and
hasn't-
we're going to see it before the May meeting
Well,
so
you
that
can't
we
discuss
can
it.
review it?
You can't discuss it if you haven't seen it.
Exactly.
So yes, between now and then, I presume either I will or Dan will make sure every member of the committee has that document, and I will research in the office to find what skeleton was put together as Rosemary has described it, and make sure you have a copy of that too.
Great, thank you.
And I see Laura's hand is still up, but
That was from
she's
before.
not here.
No, sorry, that was from before.
So we're moving right along, which is great.
See if I had the draft of that.
Legislative calendar, I sent out today. I was given too much homework this morning, so I couldn't do everything. The legislative calendar, I downloaded it, identified our three city council members' introductions, and then sorted it by committee. And again, I haven't read it as closely as I've done in the past. And I sent out, it should be going, it went to you today, but it's go out to the board. I sent to the office. I hope will go out tomorrow. And that committee chairs will use it to the degree that items of interest to them or to their committees will be taken up by them. Conflict of interest board. I don't know if I shared this last month or not. I'm not sure. Here's a first one. I got three. I don't know when I got it, but I wanted to make sure I shared what I had. A now former plans examiner from Department of Buildings, of all places, worked as an architect for DOB and worked as an architect for a private industry. When he left DOB, he continued working for the private industry, and he was fined $6,000 for doing exactly that. A geologist, a violation against public servant employment of a firm, but they were working on a particular matter, so we're back to the same idea. He paid $12.50 as a fine. Was there more? Now I have, if you want, I can give you the full documentation. This is only a summary, full documentation to explain why one paid more than the other, the same kind of misabuse. Finally, City Resources, computer technician, took equipment from the board for his own purposes, sold a piece of equipment for his own purposes, used the money, also bought stuff for his own purposes from the Department of Education. And he paid, what did he pay? Oh, he paid $1,000 fine, but he also had a 35-day suspension, which they equate as being a $10,000 penalty to him. So I have quickly, very quickly covered my agenda, except for new business or old business. And I open the floor. Hearing none.
The procedures process?
Oh, I forgot to, yeah, that's one. You like the word requiem.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
I mean, in its passing, and that's to be taken literally and figuratively, in its passing, did we learn anything from the process? And I open that up to the floor. Oh, well, I guess I was the only one who,
Well, it seemed to take forever. And I think it might have worked out better if we as a committee, you as a chair, whatever, sort of designated one or two people to take a look at that and create some red lines and of editing or whatever it was, and then getting it to us a week or two before the meeting, and making sure we had our comments back in time for the meeting.
I
Well-
think, David, that's what actually precisely happened. It just happened 4 times. Because I think Dan and I did a lot of early editing, drafting, and presenting. But
if you follow the process, Steve is right. I did send out initially a draft, which I asked you to look at before the meeting. Apparently, that was not what happened. And at the meeting, it was decided by the preponderance of those present that somehow there were issues that required further investigation and evaluation of the law. And so I asked Steve and Dan to come up with something, which they did, and I shared with the committee. And out of nowhere, I'm greatly appreciative, it seems that Lisa decided to cut through all the stuff and devise a cleaner format. And we built on that format, and we finally got through the items of disagreement. We finally had a document. So I answered your observation, David, that it seemed to take forever. For me, it took forever and forever. Two rounds of forevers.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, wasn't there an issue that half of us never got 1 or 2 rounds of it? I mean, I'm not trying to point fingers, but just it just seemed like a lot of things fell between the cracks, and that's what caused a lot of the delays.
No, the committee received directly from me everything that went out. The stuff that I wanted the board to get seemed to have gotten lost in the somewhere. And so
Okay.
some got it, some didn't get it, some never heard of it. And like for 2 months, that was a problem on the board level
Okay,
because the issue in, I lose track of the months now. The issue 1 month, when Dan and I disagreed about having a vote on that particular night, I was terribly distressed that the document had not been in anybody's hands. What were they voting on? But aside from that, after, and I give Lisa credit, it seemed to flow a whole lot better after she reconformed the document we were looking at. So how to have made the process easier is the question I think David is raising, and flow better. My fear is we don't do this again on this question of the document that Dan is presenting for us to look at. And that we, if we decide to do something, we do it neatly and quickly and not drag it out exactly the same way. The advantage of having a document in place is that, Rosemary raised her hand. 1 second, Rosemary.
Oh,
The
no, of
having-
course, of course.
Of having a document in place is that, it, except for its volume, 72 pages, I think is more than we need. Just on I think Dan felt the same way, which is he wanted to abridge it. But having it to look at and emulate or whatever, I cross my fingers again and hope that makes it a shorter process. Rosemary?
Thank you, Marty. Not being a member of the committee who went through all of the work that this committee did over the procedures. I just want to, as a board member, I think talking about requiem for the process, it would have been better if on day one it were clear or not clear whether the board was going to vote on this or not. I asked point blank, not you, Marty, but I asked point blank, is the board going to vote on this? And I was told no, not me. The board was told no. And months go on, and then eventually we voted on it. There seemed to be, and I don't understand the confusion over whether the board should vote on these procedures or not. I think my only point is clarity at the beginning. This is something the committee votes on, and then the board would be helpful, would have been helpful and clearer for the board. Thank
You
you.
left out a very important word.
Oops, what?
The question was not, do we vote? The question was, do we vote that night? And for me, that issue was, since nobody had in hand what they were voting on, that a vote was out of place. And my position has been and continued to be that the recommendation from the committee would decide, because the issue was whether or not we had to vote under the law. And the answer is we don't have to vote under the law. Should we vote? And I mean, Dan has made that very clear to me, and I accept that it was a good idea to have voted. And when the committee got together and finally made a recommendation about the resolution in the first place, there was also a recommendation to have a vote. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I'd just like to address specifically, and again, I don't think it was terrible, but it was a challenging situation. But because the law was not clear, and Dan will remember this better than I, it may have said adopt. And it wasn't obvious that the board couldn't act through its committee to adopt procedures if they were viewed as largely ministerial, and it was just an organizational challenge. And so I think even all the way through, there were differences of opinion about, and certainly uncertainty and ambiguity. And I think that we ended up asking the Borough President's Council. Honestly, I can't recall now. I think that there was no, I think they interpreted the law, which was not very well written, as not requiring it. But so I think that's part of the problem here. There was a lack of clarity in the law and a lack of guidance from more central bodies.
Anybody else? Okay, and I'm not a lawyer. I did not go to law school. My wife says I should have, but what's under the bridge is under the bridge. But I read those two paragraphs as being separate and not connected. And apparently COG and or Coog and the borough president agreed that they were two separate items. Should we have voted? Yes. Did we vote? Yes. Under the law, did we have to vote? No. Under city charter, probably had to vote. Anybody else? Well, in that case, let me wish whoever wants to drink or whatever they want to do, happy St. Patrick's Day.
How long did you search for that?
Actually, it popped up and when I saw it, I grabbed it.
Clever.
It was, again, I did not search for it. It was there. I forget where I picked it up from, but I took it.
Well, in speaking for my own people, this is not an image that we really cherish or like. Number two, when it comes to St. Patrick's Day, we're all Irish and we don't drink. And there you go. Everybody should totally enjoy St. Patrick's Day, without a doubt, because on Friday, we are all Irish. Good.
And this image, he's holding gold. I don't think he's holding drink.
True.
So on that note, I wish you all a good
Gotcha.
evening and a good month off. And see, Passover, Easter, and St. Patrick's Day are all coming up. Enjoy what you enjoy and be healthy.
Thank
Kate
you.
Miller
Thanks, Marty.
Fulcher.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Stay healthy, stay well.
Night.